Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Tinnerman Cecil, and on behalf of Susie Spittler and Tom Beck, who tapes this for us, I want to welcome you to the 17th oral history taping. It is Tuesday, October 9th, 2012, and today we are going to hear about the West Milton Lions Club. Al Rourke is the current president and our first speaker. So, Al?
Good afternoon. This afternoon I will talk briefly about the Lions Club International, and then our panel consisting of Richard Markley, Winston Clippinger, Sharon King, Bob Minker, and Jack Scudmore will be talking about West Milton Lions Club. And I want to thank each of you for being here today on the panel. Lions Club International is a service organization of over 1,368,000 members worldwide. Was founded in the United States on June 7, 1917 by Melvin Jones. Melvin was a Chicago businessman, and his personal code of ethics was, you can't get very far unless you start doing something for somebody else. And that reminds many Lions of the importance of community service. The organization became international on March 12, 1920, when the first Lions Club in Canada was established in Windsor, Canada. Lions Club International has over 45,500 clubs in 205 countries around the world. Headquartered in Oak Brook, Illinois, the organization aims to meet the needs of communities on a local and global scale. The Lions motto is, we serve. Lions Club programs include sight conservation, hearing and speech conservation, diabetes awareness, youth outreach, international relations, environmental issues, and other programs. Much of the focus on Lions Club International work as a service club organization is to raise money for worthy causes. Funds raised by Lions Club from the general public are used for charitable purposes. Lions' focus of work for the blind and visually impaired began when Helen Keller addressed the International Convention at Cedar Point, Ohio on June 30th, 1925, and charged the Lions to be Knights of the Blind. Part of this program is to collect and recycle used eyeglasses. Lions' goal for 2012 and 2013 is to collect 25,000 pair. At the beginning of September, 10,818 pairs had been collected. Helping people in need from one life improved with a pair of recycled glasses to the millions who have received treatment for forms of blindness. Everything we do as Lions counts. Numbers are an easy way to keep track of what we do, but it is hard to measure the true impact of our work on people and community, or the emotional reward Lions get from helping people in need. Lions have raised more than $415 million since 1990 to support the Sight First program, which has saved the eyesight of millions of people worldwide. More than 120 million children worldwide have been helped by the need-based Lions Eye Care Centers, opened with World Health Organization to deliver eye care services. Lions and Lion Club International have helped provide nearly 8 million cataract surgeries as part of the Sight First program, bringing sight to millions of people. Membership is by invitation, and attendance at meetings is encouraged. The West Milton Lions Club meets on the second and the fourth Tuesday of each month at 6:15 p.m. at the United Church of Christ Building, 108 South Main Street. You are cordially invited to attend. We will now talk about the West Milton Lions Club, and if time permits at the end of our panel discussion, we will entertain questions and comments. Richard Markley will start the discussion with the history of the West Milton Club. Winston Clippinger will follow, then Sharon King, Robert Minker, and then Jack Scudmore. We want to thank you for this opportunity to share our story about the West Milton Lions Club. Richard?
Thank you, Lion President. 61 years of service to the West Milton and Union Township and international community. I told the panel before we started that we will probably repeat each other, and I guess that's because we want to pound those areas home. The West Milton Club was sponsored by the Vandalia Club. Now, why would we even want to be involved in a West Milton Lions Club? There was a Rotary Club, and this is a name we as Lions hate to say, but we'll say it today because it is part of our history. The Rotary Club meets at noon, and they had a club here in West Milton made up mostly of the people that lived in the community and maybe the farmers surrounding the community. There was a need for all of those who used West Milton as a bedroom community to go to have an organization that they could serve in the evening. And there, the West Milton Lions Club started to become very important to us in our thinking. The Lions Club at Vandalia took on sponsoring of our club, and that was on the 26th of March, 1951. So we've been around for over 61 years. Today the club hovers around 20 members, we hope. We would like to have a lot more, and that's Lion Al invited you to come and see us. We had 24 members to start, which we call the charter members. We had 40 by January of 1952 and 50 members by 1955. We said we're going to only have a number and cut it off at 50 because where we were meeting here in West Milton would only handle 100 people at a dinner, and when we had our spouses, well, there wasn't any room for any more than 100. So we had a 50-member limit. The early members read like a who's who of West Milton. Names like O'Callaghan, who was mayor of this town at one time, Henderson, Godown, Seaman, Harmon, and Jesse Harmon was a blind member of our club. Beatley built a lot of houses in the West Milton area. Schumacher, Waymeyer, Flair, Vore, Judd, Baker, your TV man, Dietrich, Miller, Roy Miller, the funeral home, Fuller, Hollinger, Pfeiffer, Lyons, Lyons, Lions, Carroll, Dittmer, Kaufman, Cole, Benny Cole, head basketball coach at Milton, Elliott, and Hoover. It goes on. I'm going to name all 24 of the charter members a little later in my presentation. What did we do? Projects over the years. Brooms, light bulbs, sewing kits, booster buttons, ham raffles, beef raffles, turkey raffles, shower water saving devices. This is a shower water saving device. One of our members bought one of these. I think we sold them for $2. We paid $1, so we made $1 on them. But the idea was to take your shower head off, insert this little plastic gadget in, and you'd still get the same shower, but it would save water and save money. Well, one of our members bought one of these things, and by the time he had the plumber in, because he couldn't get the shower head off and broke about a 12-inch hole in the wall in the bathroom, it was a very expensive water-saving device. We still have some of these if anyone would like them. We sold fruitcakes, roses. And you know, the Lions were noted back in those days at the other clubs as selling cut roses. We tried that, and then we sold real live rose bushes so that you could plant them at your home and have some nice looking roses. And we got into a program with the Tip City and went over as the Lions labor and put these roses bushes together and wrapped them all up and brought them home and sold them. We had mints and coloring books. We put on a Midwestern hayride show at the high school. We put on a donkey basketball at the high school. And we had bingo. And when bingo first started, we were using things from the merchants in town. We'd ask for them to give us donations. and we would have a teddy bear or a hammer or a saw or whatever, and that was what we did. We didn't make much money doing that. Someone suggested, why don't you go 50-50 on cash? We did, and we've been doing it ever since, and making quite a lot of money that way. The barbecue chicken, white cane days, and others will tell about some of these as we go on through the program. We tried to make money any way we could in order to serve the community. What are some of the things that we have done in the early days? Probably one of the most important one was the park land. For $490 in 1954, we bought 2 parcels of land from Bill Marsh, who was a Lions Club member at the time. That has now become the West Milton Park. We built a shelter house on it, then later we built another shelter house on that land, and the Rotary bought land, the town bought land, there was people that donated some of the land, and now we have a West Milton Park because the Lions Club bought that first parcel and started it. We put an elevator in at the home of Virginia Hemrick here in town. Virginia was having so much trouble getting up the stairs to her bedroom and to the bathroom, which was all on the 2nd floor. And the Lions Club took on a major project of putting an elevator on that home for her. And Wally Dennis, who, by the way, was my father-in-law, owned Dayton Elevator Company in Dayton, so that helped us out quite a bit in putting the elevator in. And although we worked on it, he did most of the work. Polio Drive. Polio was a big deal. I remember when we couldn't go to the Miami County Fair because you're afraid you're going to get polio. But we had a drive for polio which used a loaf of bread. We'd ask the residents of town to turn their lights on if they wanted to contribute to the polio drive. We would come by and give them a loaf of bread, and they would give us a contribution. Contributions were usually like $2, $3, $5. I went to one door in town, and they gave me $300 back in those days. That was a lot of money, and people that really wanted to help the Lions Club in the polio effort. We were a sponsor of Words, the radio reading service for the blind. Marvin Rue, who was a member of our club for many years, was a board member on Words. And he came to us and he says, this is what we have. We have this kind of a program. We're going to read to the blind, and the Lions Club's involved in the blind. Would you be interested in getting us started? So we said, okay, we'll give you your first contribution, which turned out to be the first contribution of money to Words. And Words became, then people have radios that throughout the community and throughout Miami County and Montgomery County, listening to someone read the news to them and that sort of thing. So a lot do not know that the Lions Club furnished the paint and the labor to paint the high school football stadium. Now, it's not the current stadium, but the old seats that were on there and the old railings we put together. We had used 50 gallons of paint on that effort. We bought the drapes for the high school auditorium. The drapes had been put in there in about 1938. They were about shot, and the Lions Club came up with the project to put the drapes in. We sponsored the high school basketball banquet for 10 years here in Milton. In fact, here is the ninth year program for that sponsorship, and we had the guest was Coach Raymond Mears from Wittenberg University of Springfield, Ohio, and Mrs. Virgil Waymeyer gave the cheerleaders their trophies. Coach Bill Fox, the reserve varsity, and Coach Bill Ginn, the varsity. And then the Roy H. Miller, 15th Miller Good Sportsmanship Award, the C.C. Dickey, 4th Dickey Most Valuable Player Award, and then the Coach Ginn gave out the Foul Shooting Award. So that's something we did for the school for some 10 years. Others will tell you about money for Ohio State Eye Research, pilot dogs, and of course glasses for those in the community that can't afford them. These projects have well over $150,000. And you might say to that then, If it wouldn't have been for the West Milton Lions Club, the Rotary Club, the old J.C.'s Club, the Meltonian Club, the Mary Grandmothers, all the other clubs, who would do this kind of work? So it's very important. And Lion President mentioned Helen Keller in 1925 at Cedar Point in Ohio at the Lions Convention, the International Convention that year, when she did challenge the Lions to be Knights of the Blind. And she gave a speech that must have been a great speech as the Lions accepted her challenge. And we've been involved as a major effort in eyesight ever since. I said I would read the charter members on March 5th, 1951. Lion William O'Callaghan, Lion Forrest Henderson, Lion Emeril Godown, Lion Ivan Seaman, Lion Jesse Harmon, Lion Wilbur Beatley, Lion Richard Schumacher, Lion Clarence Waymeyer, Lion Rush Flaler, Lion Paul Bohr, Lion Delbert Judd, Lion Harold Baker, Lion Donald Dietrich, Lion Roy Miller, Lion Robert Fuller, Lion David Hollinger, Lion Walter Pfeiffer, Lion Robert Lyons, Lion Vivian V.J. Carroll, Lion Galen Dittmer, Lion Harry Kaufman, Lion Ben Cole, Lion Ralph Elliott, Lion Victor Hoover. Lion Cole just died this past year, and he was the oldest living charter member when he passed away. Now, I could go on forever, but I'll pass to Winston.
Thank you, Dick. And thank you, Lion President Al, for inviting me on to the panel. Dick has told you a lot of the history of this club, and I think that you quickly get an understanding of what this group of men have done in this community. And excuse me for being politically incorrect, because we do have women in the club now, one of them present, of course, but for many years, this was only a men's club. And back when ERA came in, changes were made. Not too well accepted by some, I must admit, but at least changes were made for the better. And we do have women who are members now. I joined this club about 15 years after it was originated here in West Milton, and that would have been about in 1966. And the night of the induction, which took place in the Masonic Temple, which was at that time, I believe, up above Kenny Shade's furniture store, and there were 5 of us men inducted at the time. There was Harold Antonides, Russ Dillon, Ralph Snyder, Gene Cleather, and myself. These other gentlemen are all passed away by this time. So I had had the distinction, so-called, of being the oldest member in the club as it now exists. But as Dick and Al both have told you, this international organization, which was organized and promoted and challenged by Helen Keller, sort of established the nucleus of what Lions was all about. And Lions have worked in eye research and sight conservation and just help for the visually impaired for so many years. It's amazing. Some of these numbers I don't think we can always keep in our head. The membership numbers and things like that internationally, it's been tremendous. And it's even been tremendous right here in this little community of West Milton. So I've always been proud to be a member of that club. Like Dick said, we did a lot of hard work on these projects. The first shelter house that was built, I was not a member yet of the club, but I did have the good fortune of putting the new roof on it by myself at a later date. I don't know where all the help went to that night, or those nights that was done, but I put the roof on the other shelter house. And then later, we tore down an old barn out on Rangeline Road, brought all them timbers in, the ones we didn't dump in Paul Comstock's front yard. We took down to the park and built that second shelter house down there, which, as you all know, we used during the 4th of July celebration for our barbecue and everything. I can also remember something Dick brought back to my memory was the giving of bread for the polio drive, because polio was such a disease in that generation, you know, and you were scared to go out of the house almost because you were afraid you would contract that disease. And we came right into contact with the people who had it. There was a girl in my class, and Barbara and I were just speaking about that before we started here, and Lois Harshbarger, a beautiful young woman. She had contracted this disease, and my dad drove her school bus, and he had to stop and pick her up every morning, every night, stand her up on the step of that old school bus to get her to and from school. When that serum was developed to do away with that disease, it's one of the greatest things that ever hit this country. We just hope someday that maybe cancer will come to its same end. There's just been all these projects, but I can remember, I believe it was Beanie Thompson and somebody else came to my home with a loaf of bread, and it was a snowing, cold Sunday afternoon, and these lions were out trudging through that snow collecting for the polio drive. And they were making a tremendous effort, just as they did and have done over the years in many of these projects that we have undertaken. I don't want to take away from Sharon's time, because I know she's going to tell you some about the Lions Club, but I also want to make a comment about the Lions Club, because they originated on the same night that I joined this club, along with those four other men that I had named to you back in 1966. And that organized the Lions Club. Now, this is a completely different entity from the Lions Club. And they did their own thing. They had projects and they worked, but they always cooperated with the Lions Club and any project that we had, and they supported us wholeheartedly. And I found out the first year that I was president in 1972-73 just how important the Lions Club was also to this town, because those ladies pitched in, and one of the greatest things we found, they prepared our meals for us. And this has always been kind of an issue. You know, West Milton is a small town, no big restaurants or anything. We could not many times find a place to go for our ladies' nights out, someplace that could seat, like Dick said, maybe 50 people or more when the spouses was there. But you know, it was a problem there. So the ladies, they prepare our meals, charge us a very nominal fee, but we got tremendous meals, didn't we, Dick?
Oh, yes.
Tremendous meals. And paid this fee for that. But the ladies, after they collected this money, 9 times out of 10, they would turn that right over to the Lions Club for our projects and support us wholeheartedly. So I want to give credit to the Lions Club of West Milton, you know, for just everything they did. They went into the schools and they took these little kids out of the lower classes, maybe first, second, third graders, and they would bring them in, and then they would give them sort of a preliminary eye check. Nothing real, a diagnosis, I guess you could call it, but they would check him. If a kid was having a problem, maybe it only meant getting him seated up closer to the blackboard or something like that. But they did do an eye check. If they found out that the child had a need, they would get him to a doctor and see what could be done for him. And then the Lions Club, if necessary, would pay for this bill. And they did that for many, many years. And it was a tremendous and worthwhile service for this whole community. Like Dick had a list of charter members there. This is a thing from the Lions Club in 19 73, I believe, and it has, and I won't take time to read all these ladies' names, because most of them, better than 2/3 of them, are now deceased. But if anyone would like to see this list, you'll see a lot of names on there, spouses of the ones that Dick read, and this is just about one of their meetings, dinner meetings, I believe it was. Another thing I wanted to mention to you was the White Cane Days, which you see lions standing at the business places many times collecting money for what is entitled White Cane Days. We started it here, and I was very proud to be a very small part. My first vice president that year went to the International Convention in Mexico City, he and his wife, and that was Russ and Isis Dillon at that time, and they went to Mexico City. And when he came back, he brought us the details on White Cane Days and how it could be operated. And we voted to do that project. And you've seen over the years the lions out and lioness out at the business places collecting money. And not a penny of that money goes for our benefit. That money goes for state and national projects and like site conservation and pilot dogs and just things like that. So these are a couple of the things that the Lions have done, and I don't want to run on forever here, but we've talked about our projects and stuff, and I'll tell you, it hasn't all been work. We've had fun doing these projects. We've worked hard, but we've had a lot of fun. Like I said, we have ladies' nights frequently. We've gone out and had a lot of good meals, a lot of good entertainment. And we used to have a kind of a tradition when the new president was elected and came into office, the Lions Club would show up on his front step about 4 o'clock on a Saturday morning and beating on his door till he got out of bed. And we'd say, all right, what's for breakfast this morning? But usually we would have brought our own grills and eggs and bacon and everything and was set to prepare it ourselves, but we'd roust them out anyhow and get a lot of fun out of that. The bell that we could call ourselves to order with, it used to be that everybody as inter-club visitation took place, they would have a little habit of stealing the home club's bell and bringing it back. And you would keep possession of that till they gave you a return visit and to get their bell back. And that was just one of those old traditions. The neckties, it used to be kind of a thing that if somebody kind of screwed up somewhere along the line, they might get their necktie cut off by the tail twister. After ties got up to about $25 a piece, this kind of ceased, kind of went by the wayside as a lot of other things. One night, our Lions Club president, after he come home from one of the meetings, found his bed to be short-sheeted with a pair of sheets that had great big lions emblazoned on it, right on the whole sheet, the pillowcases and everything. And I don't think anybody ever told who did it. Paul Comstock was the recipient of that. But what they did for me on my 25th wedding anniversary, they threw a mock wedding for us, and we had a big time over that. Someone even had the audacity to go to my mother and got a bunch of information on me, mainly about a girl I had dated from Arcanum, and they brought in a girl with a blonde wig, and I mean, she portrayed the part to a T, and it was a hilarious occasion. As a matter of fact, I don't imagine you can see this picture, but this was the picture of that mock wedding with me in my top hat and my bride in her so-called wedding gown. And those are the type of things that we did for fun. We had lots and lots of fun. with each other. But, and you've seen here that we're wearing our vest. We wear the red, and the state of Ohio is the only Lions Club that does that. Purple and gold are the Lions Club colors internationally. But when there's an international convention, you never have any trouble finding the Ohio State delegation because they are in the red vest. And of course our vest, and you can see some of my pins. I'm so proud of this one. Come back from Mexico City for me. Russ Dillon brought that back to me, and I'm very proud of that one. I have one down here at the bottom of an old Hereford steer. This came from John Russell, who was a district governor up in Bellefontaine, Ohio. If you remember the news just a few years ago, he and his wife was brutally murdered by some guy. When John gave me that pin, I treasure that. We have pins designating the old mill down here, the old Hoover Grist Mill. This was designed by one of our club members, and we trade these pins at conventions, state and national, international conventions. If anybody goes to that, they trade these pins, and that's the reason we wear these. Most of these designate perfect attendance for year by year. So there's, you know, a lot of things that we do may seem a little bit strange to people who don't understand them all, but it has a lot of meaning for us. And like I said at the start, it has been my honor and pleasure to have been a member of this club because I've met a lot of good men and women through my membership in this club. So it'll always hold a special place in my heart. And I want to pass on now to Sharon and let her tell her part of the story. Sharon?
Thank you, all you gentlemen. I appreciate all the time that I've been able to spend in the Lions Club. I started out, I watched Jane Rue. Looked like she was having so much fun. And I told Ronnie, I said, that Lions Club looks like they're having a lot of fun. And so I didn't do any more about it. And one day, Lion Winston Vore asked Ronnie to join. And we've been in it ever since. I was in the Lions Club because of that. And Ronnie's been, I think he's passed away now, but he was in almost 30 years. And the women, when they cooked, they would have one person do all the salad, one person do all the vegetables, one person do all the potatoes, one person, whoever was in charge of that night's meal, would have the meat and the bread and the butter and all those condiments. And then one person would bring the dessert. Alice Lay did a lot of cooking. Her husband, as you know, is the head of the bank. Margaret Beatley did a lot of the cooking. We all learned from the two of them. And we cooked twice a month on Tuesdays. And they never knew what they were going to have, but we knew. And we knew who couldn't have sweets and who couldn't eat this or different things, you know, so we've always made sure that they ate what they were allowed to eat. One time I brought the tray out and I had the food on it, and Winston talked about the bell. And I took the bell and I put it on the cart and took it back out to the kitchen. They didn't even miss it. So I brought it back out. I didn't want to be accused of taking the bell. We set up the tables each week and took them down each week. We didn't take the tables down. We washed the dishes, cleaned everything up. We had a room in the back that had all of our pots and pans and whatever we needed in the back. And we'd washed up everybody's dishes and sent them home with what they needed. We had a refrigerator that kept all of our cold things in, our salads, our desserts, our milk, whatever we needed, butter. We had meetings. I think we met once a month. I don't think we met twice a month. I can't remember. But anyways, we would have sheets we signed up to cook, and very rarely did we have any problems with getting anybody to do any of the cooking. But we had presidents, we had officers in our organization, and we collected dues. But they started a national lioness group, and we were not a part of that. In fact, I wasn't in it at the beginning, but they started before the national group ever started. And so we just kept on doing what we were doing. We did not join the national because we'd had to pay more money, and we wouldn't have been able to give the men as much as we did or do as much for them. So we just kept our own group. Each president each year had to make up a little book with everybody's address in, phone numbers, birthdays, and also,
That's what this is.
you got one. Thelma Webster was the president at our group, and Marilyn was the vice president. You know, we had all the same officers that the men have. And it listed all the past presidents, and each president had to make one of these books up. Well, I was president twice, and the third time that I was president, I shared it with Liz Miller, and then she shared it one year with Marilyn. But we had a lot of fun, and it wasn't really a whole lot of work, and we always had something about a lion on the front of our book, somewhere or other in the lion, or we had sayings that we found that we put in the book just to add interest to it. But it was interesting that we do that every year. We met in our homes each month, and like I said, we had sheets that we passed around, and each month we had a program at our meetings. Sometimes it was a workable program that we worked on ourselves. We cooked for the men. We had very good meals for them. But it got to the place where the head of the Lions Club was wanting the men to add women to their clubs. And most of them did not like this, and there still are some clubs that will not allow women in. My husband took the first step, and he wanted me to join first, and I said no, I would not join until somebody else joined. I didn't want to get kicked out of the club already first. So he asked 3 other women to join, and they've all moved away and gone their own way now. And but I stayed with him, and even when I wasn't a lion, I traveled all over the state with him because he had several different offices. He was president twice, and he was state membership chairman one time. One time while he was state membership chairman, and I can't think of the president's name that lives over Pittsburgh. Kepler's, Don Kepler. And we would invite them to come in and enjoy our timeshares with us in Daytona. And the one time they came, we went to a morning session, a morning club, we went to a noon club, and we went to an evening club. And so we had our fill of lions that day. And they have a group in Florida that takes care of children that are mentally disturbed and are handicapped. And they have to have both, and they are taught a job. They are taught how to take care of money. They are taught how to take care of their apartments. And after they learn well enough, they are moved into their own apartments where they take care of themselves. And it's a wonderful organization that's done in Florida. And it was fun going to see all that. Oh, let's see, what else have we got here? Dick mentioned Bill Myers. I had to just say this because my brother went to Wittenberg, and that was one of his favorite coaches. Okay. Ronnie and I, before I was even a member, we attended 3 national conventions. One was in Scarsdale, Arizona, and my son lived in Phoenix at the time. And we went to one in Minnesota. And this was when they had this big rainstorm. And we had signed up for a boat tour. And the boat tour, the first day, they had to change it from the regular boat to a smaller boat. And we were so crunched on the boat, it's a wonder it didn't sink. And we got under the bridge and down through the turnaround and back up again. And the third day they did it, they couldn't do it because the water had raised up so much, even the small boat couldn't go under the bridge. And it started in the morning because of the extreme, no. Because of the extreme heat, it started in the afternoon and lasted clear into the evening. It was one of the biggest parades that we've had. And on our way up, they were working on the road, and they had this great big pile of dirt, I mean big, with a house on top of it. And under this house were legs hanging down over the side of the hill, like the one that was in Wizard of Oz. And had the striped socks on and the big pointed shoes and everything. And people were stopping along the road taking pictures and everything. But that was quite a scene. We used to meet in the bank basement. And the women had decided at their meetings that if the men took in women, they weren't going to cook anymore. And the men did take in. I didn't want to be responsible for that. But there were two others that were brought in, and one was a postmaster at West Milton, and the other one was the head of the library. And they were, the head of the library, she was very active while she was here, and she was not married, and she had adopted a little boy or a little girl, I forget which. And well, she had two of them, so she eventually had to quit her job and move into Dayton where she could be with them more. We used to meet in the bank basement, and we had several that were having a hard time getting up and down the stairs. And so they moved over to the Christian church, and the Christian church women were doing the cooking for a while. And now we're back over to Rob's again, and he had a very good dinner last meeting. But our winter dinners are getting more expensive all the time. I'm trying to think if I've got anything else here. As Winston said, the pins that we have on our jackets, I've been to 3 conventions, and like he said, they trade pins. And so Ronnie and I would go around and trade pins. We'd take pins with us to trade with them, or sometimes they'd see one on our jackets that they liked, and they'd just say, you know, I'll give you this for that. Well, some of them had good pins and some of them didn't. Now, with traveling with Ronnie, I have a pin from most of the presidents of the national associations that when they visit other chapters. And so I've been very fortunate. And I have a lot of ease because Ronnie and I we had to visit 5 chapters. And every winter we go to Florida for 6 months, we visit 5 chapters down there. And so we always got an E for our chapters. Now, if you get 5 E's, you can turn them in and get 1 green E. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on here, and I got another one I haven't put on yet. So I've got 8 of them. So I'll get me a green E pretty soon. But most of these other ones are filled, and I've got enough pins I could fill the back of this jacket too. But that wouldn't be very comfortable. This is as heavy as it is. And Ronnie's, all of his pins that he has and that he's collected would fill another jacket. But I've had a lovely time in Lioness and Lions Club. We've had a lot of fun, and they have welcomed me very, very much in the Lions Club. And of course, I'm gone the whole winter. And I always take in the Lions, when we have our bingo, I usually count the money out and add up the tickets and stuff like that. And my son usually does the announcing, and he loves that. He won't join the Lions Club, but he will always come down and work with us. And when my Jeff was here for a couple years ago, a couple summers ago, he came down and helped all the time. So they won't join, but they sure like to help. So now I think I've got everything written down here. I do miss my husband. He got me started in this, and I hope I can finish it. So I turn it over to Bob.
Okay, thanks, Sharon. I was supposed to talk about some of the local projects, and some of them have already been covered, but some of the notes I looked back, they talked about the Loaf for Life, where they went out with loaves of bread door to door. They did that from 1951 to 68, and they raised over $20,000 for polio. And one of the reasons they was able to do that, I found that the loaves of bread only cost them 8 cents back then. The highest they got up to was 14 cents. I'm not sure where they bought the bread, but they got a good deal on the bread at that time, too. Also, that very first year that they were formed, they started a Good Citizenship Award. The first year was a $50 amount given to a senior from Milton Union High School. And since that time, we've kept it up. Now we're up to two $500 award, and this is based on community service, not so much scholastic work, but community service, and we always have applicants, and then we have a committee that decides who's going to win. So far, we've given out over $25,000 in these Good Citizenship Awards. In '78, we took over the blood drive from the JCs. Before that, the JCs ran it for the Red Cross, and they were in the process of folding up, and the Red Cross called and asked if we would take it on. So we took it on in '78, and now we do that every 8 weeks. We have a blood drive. And over the years, I know we've gathered over 2,000 units of blood, so that's a big effort for us too. And they talked about collecting eyeglasses. We average well over 1,000 a year that we collect. So in the last few years, we know we're over 20,000 pairs that we've turned in for recycling too. We've made major contributions to a lot of local causes, such as the Library Building Fund, Senior Citizens Building Fund, the football field renovation, Track Club, Boy Scouts of West Milton and Ludlow, Young Spirits, JTI, Fish, Clubhouse for Kids, Helping Hands, the 5-3 Summer Lunch Program, Fire Department, Life Squad, and the Public Library. We've got a lot of different things that we do in the community. Of course, with eyesight being one of the main focuses, we do pay for eye exams and eyeglasses for people in the community who can't afford them themselves, too. We have a committee that takes care of getting that all taken care of. They talked about some of the fun things we did over the years. We do have a rule in the International Lions Club that any money raised from the community has to be spent on service projects. We can't spend it on our own club activities. So we have two separate bank accounts. We have a service account where all that money goes into, and then we have an administrative account that we use for our dues, and that pays for some of our own projects. And they talked about some of the things they did for the presidents. In '81, my wife Charlotte and I got married, and we had been threatened that we was going to have an old-fashioned belling for us. And a couple of different times we thought sure it was happening, and something didn't happen. And just about the time we forgot about it, they planned a Halloween party. Well, unbeknownst to us, as soon as we signed up that we were coming to the Halloween party, that was a signal that the belling was on. So an hour before we were supposed to leave, all of a sudden, we found out our house was surrounded by people with bells and dishpans and everything to make noise, and they started all this racket. Of course, we had to let them in. They grabbed us up, put us in the back of a pickup truck with a dinner bell, and drove us around town having a belling, and then we went up to Sarvers Park and had a big Halloween picnic. So that was one of the fun things that we were involved. They did that twice after us. I know when Mark and Elise Zielinski were married, they had a belling, and then the last one was an older member of our club got remarried. He was from Tip City, and his wife was not so excited about riding in the back of a pickup truck. So that was the last belling, but that's also the last wedding we had in the club, too. So over the years, we had lots of fun. The last couple of years, we've taken over the July 4th celebration, and Jack's going to talk about that now, too. So, Jack?
Thank you, Lion Bob, and thank you, Lion Al, for inviting me down to this. As Lion Bob said, I'm going to talk about the July 4th Festival. In 2006, the Lions had the opportunity to take over hosting the July 4th Festival, specifically the fireworks display and the carnival. Why? Well, the chamber was talking about doing away with it, and we just couldn't see getting rid of such a long-time community and family tradition. To give you an idea of how long ago, children and grandchildren of years ago are bringing their children to today's festivals for us. Not only that, but I also get emails and telephone calls from past residents that have moved out of state and everything else, calling me up and asking me, When is it going? Is it still going? Is the fireworks still on the 4th? And stuff. So it's something that's been around for a long time. We also did it because many communities have foregone the displays due to costs, or they hold a display on July 3rd or July 2nd or July 5th or whatever. We hold to doing it on July 4th. It's not uncommon for us to have between 8,000 and 10,000 people in the park on the 4th of July itself for the fireworks display. If you come out and want to wander around, you'll see them parked on Iddings. You'll see them parked at the Stillwater Ridge Golf Course. You'll see them parked down at the cemetery on the streets there. They park any place where they can and go and see the fireworks display. And of course, we have a great area for doing it so they can see it from all around. Another thing that makes the 4th worthwhile is businesses, local businesses in the community, because of the number of people coming in and everything else. Not everybody wants corn dogs, although I do know we have a corn dog aficionado in the audience today. But not everybody wants corn dogs and stuff. So McDonald's and Fox's Pizza and different places like that get an uptick in their profits and their income because of the additional business. The big thing is we are a self-sufficient program. What it means is our funds come from the community, businesses, residents, and churches through donations. Letters go out to the businesses and the churches after the first of the year, and donation buckets are placed in 12 different locations throughout the business community in June. Each contributing organization will receive a letter of thanks along with a certificate of thanks that we produce for them for their contribution. And I also include articles out in the local newspapers, either an article or a letter to the editor for thanking the businesses for their contributions. Requests for display bids go out after the new year, requesting a display of different lengths depending on the funds I expect to have. That's based upon what we've been collecting in the past versus what I might have left over from the year before, and what I think we can collect this year as to become a part of the funding for it. To give you an example of what it takes, the 2012 display, which lasted between 18 and 20 minutes, cost $15,000. So the contributions are very, very, very important. The bigger the display, the larger the amount, the more contributions we need. I'd like to keep it at 15, 18, 20 minutes, but to do that, we need some money. They mentioned sight and hearing and eyeglass recycling. Just a sideline on that. This year, our district that we are in the state of Ohio, the Darlene Roll, who is our first vice district governor, her and two other individuals took 3 SUVs full of eyeglasses, boxed and sorted, to our recycling center in Indiana. So to give you an idea of, and she's got a garage full now.
Wow.
On top of it. That's
Well, the person I didn't mention was Ann. She's joined here with Jack, and it's nice to have 2 women in the club.
Tell us about your display of pennants. What's your display?
our banners.
Well, most of these pennants came from other clubs.
Okay.
And they've been from, and a lot of times whenever you would go visit a club, you would make sure that you got one of their pennants, and sometimes we would take our pennants and we would trade. So they would have, and the other members know more about this because they've been a lot more involved in this than I have. But we have them, if you look at, they're from all over the world,
Right.
not just local.
Yes.
Yes. Any comments?
Every club in Florida has one that is around our area.
And this is just that's not all of them, there's more.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else?
Any other questions? The only thing I want to say before we close, if there's no comments or questions, is that Like Jack mentioned, the 4th of July is West Milton Lions' largest community project. And it requires the help from all the members, all the families. It requires support from all West Milton businesses, all the churches, and the residents. And for it to be a success, we must all contribute to this. So again, we want to thank you for allowing us to share our story with you. And thank you guys for being here and sharing.
Thank you.
I've got one other couple comments to make that I left off, and that's where have we met? They started meeting at the Sportsman's Inn, the Spot. Now, where is the Sportsman's Inn? That's the current Masonic Lodge building, is the Sportsman's Inn. After the Sportsman's Inn, it became the post office, became the post office, and now the Masonic Lodge. We met at the Horseshoe Club. The Horseshoe Club burned down. It was on Calumet Road, and it burned down shortly after my wife and I's wedding reception, which was held there. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. And we met at Frankie's Hillside Manor, which is down where the Eagles and the Legion area is, and the bank basement, and now, as Sharon mentioned, at the United Church of Christ. One of the things we've always done in our club, and how this started, I'm not sure, but we have the Pledge of Allegiance to start the club. And we have a prayer, and we have songs. We sing, not very good, but we sing. And we always end our singing with the Battle Hymn of the Republic, first and last verse. So we know the first and last verse. Don't ask us to sing any of the other verses. I want to make sure that those things got to you. What are we doing now, too? We're still doing football parking. We park the cars at the football field. Looks like since the football field is going to stay where it is, we'll be doing that for a while. We did do a lot of track parking, but with 600 and some parking spaces at the new school, we probably won't be doing much track parking anymore. And then Randy Penny's got us involved in the grandstand at the Miami County Fair, and that's been a good project every year. He's been handling that for us, and that's going real well. So those are some of the things that we're doing. The parking lot down in the park wasn't always a parking lot. That blacktop area down there where the canoe business is was originally an ice skating rink. We built an ice skating rink and put down the vinyl 2x4s all the way around, and vinyl, and that didn't work very well. So we said, well, let's put a blacktop one in. So we put the blacktop in, and that was all the way around. Then we put a fence around it. The fence is no longer there, but the reason is kids would keep throwing logs and stones in on the ice. The ice would melt and freeze and had all the logs and ice, and finally we had to give that project up, but it makes a nice parking lot.
Yeah. Ticket sales. You didn't mention ticket sales at the meetings.
At the what?
At the meetings, the ticket sales?
50/50.
50/50 ticket sale?
Oh, yes.
And the other thing we do is eat.
Oh,
Yeah.
We do a good job of that.
Well, whoever wins the ticket is supposed to, that table's supposed to sing. But we haven't lately.
With our member Lion Darwin Sater, he produced for us a current history book of Miami County, Union Township, West Milton, Mara, Ludlow, all that it encompasses. And that's on sale at Patterson's Flower Shop. And a lot of good comments about that book, and a lot of people are still buying them.
And Dick here is one of the recipients of the Melvin Jones Fellowship, and I think we had 3 of them been awarded in the club, and that's for outstanding service for many, many years. How many, Dick?
55.
55 years of his service, along with his friend Winston Bohr. I think you came in about the same time, and I believe Darwin was awarded one for his tremendous work on the book, which was a big asset to the club. So we've all had different segments of work into the club. A couple of things that I had, for many years I had a little MG midget, and I would always haul the new president, or the current president, and his wife, usually on the parades, usually at the 4th of July or Labor Day or Memorial Day, whenever they were held. Many, many times we transported these in the parades. Another specific job that I was entitled to share was the installation of officers each year. As our new group of officers came in, I always did the installing of the officers, and also an introduction to the club of new members and inducting them into the club. And I always said this was the greatest job in the whole Lion field there, because I got to bring in new people into the club. I didn't actually bring them in, but I performed induction ceremonies for them, and I tried to make it meaningful to them when they came in, so they could see what this club has been doing, and just some of the outstanding people that I always felt was members of this local Lions Club.
Real quick, another recent recipient of the Melvin Jones Fellowship Award is Lion Bob over here
Yeah.
for his contributions. We could always rely on Bob if we were supposed to have a guest speaker and they didn't show up. Lion Bob could always dig something out of his warehouse of possessions and bring it and give us a good program.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you. Thank you all very, very much. This has been most interesting, and thank you for being such an asset to this community of West Milton. We really appreciate it.